Thank you for tuning in to the MMA Roundtable. We got a bunch to cover today. Obviously, a big card going down this Saturday, UFC on Fuel 7. The Bantamweight interim title between Renan Barão and Michael McDonald, along with a bunch of other fights we're going to break down. We had a pretty busy week with MMA news as well. A lot of announced fights. A lot of other stuff going on. Hey, today's Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day, everybody. Let's get to it. Thanks a lot to everybody tuning in, keeping the show going. This is the MMA Roundtable, a show we do every Thursday, 7 to 9 Eastern, 4 to 6 Pacific. I am the host of the MMA Podcast, a show that goes down every Friday, 9 to 11 Eastern, 6 to 8 Pacific. We have some regulars on the show as well. We got Ray, Patrick from MMA Mental. We have Jay, we have Buffalo Dave, but we have a first-timer on the show today who I'll pass it over to Mike Hammersmith, the writer for MMA Valor. You have any plugs for MMA Valor or anything? Thanks for coming on the show today, man.
Hey, thanks for having me. That would be my only plug is MMA Valor, where I'm the featured writer and analyst.
Definitely follow him on Twitter at Mike Hammersmith. Just how it sounds, M-I-K-E, and then Hammer, and then Smith. And follow MMA Valor, just how that sounds too, MMA V-A-L-O-R. And like I mentioned before, we got Ray with MMA Mental. You all are doing it crazy now. You have like 10 interviews, a podcast, or something ridiculous. How are things going over there, man?
Yeah, very busy at the minute. We're getting a lot of positive attention. I've obviously had some great interviews last week. Spoke to Bruce Buffer and John McCarthy, which was awesome. Had more big interviews this week. Spoke with Gareth A. Davis. Actually rang me up to have a quick chat, which was quite nice. And when I answered the phone, he knew my name, which was a nice, pleasant surprise. Spoke with Phil Harris earlier in the week in the build-up to his match with Ulysses Gomez. And we've got Francisco Rivera and Johnny Hendricks on tomorrow, which obviously we're excited about. We continue to work with Extreme Fighting Championship. Spoke with a couple of their guys, Pearl Gonzalez and Jimmy Fowler. And of course, MMA Mental gets its first press pass this weekend and will be cage side at the UFC on Fuel TV 7, which we're very excited about. So all in all, very good for us at the moment.
That's fucking awesome. Yeah, the MMA podcast, we've had a few notable guests recently. Liddy Hart, obviously, who recorded us an awesome new intro for the show. Ben Askren, we got Darren Cruikshank on tomorrow to talk to him about his fight next month against John McDessie. I guess let's get into the MMA if you are listening live, which if you do want to listen live, we do this show every Thursday, 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern, 4 to 6 Pacific, midnight to 2 a.m. if you're in the UK. You can follow me at the MMA Podcast. I always tweet out the link when we go live. MMA Mental as well. He'll tweet out the link. I guess I may as well shout out everyone's Twitters while we're doing it. J Jeans is at J_Jeans, the letter J, then jeans, like the kind you wear. Dave is at Buffalo Dave 10. Even though Patrick couldn't make it, he's off with his sweetie for Valentine's Day. He's at Sweet Pappy Jones. Ramses, who should be joining us later, is at the Aunt Jimmy Show, and our buddy Chris, who's no longer with us physically, but will always be with us in spirit and in the Twitter world, C_Lowenstein. Let's get into the MMA, but first, how's everyone's Valentine's Day going? You all have any sweeties out there? I don't. My Valentine is my mom. And when I say that, people go, aw, and I don't know if they're going, aw, because they think it's cute or because it's like, aw, you're a fucking loser. But, no, Ray, your Valentine's Day going well? You all do Valentine's Day big over in the UK?
My Valentine's is useful, so that tells you how it's going.
Aww.
Is that in the sweet way or is that bastard way?
It's sweet, buddy. It's sweet.
Oh, yeah, I put in a nice long work day on Valentine's Day, and then I'm just relaxing doing the podcast, so really can't complain.
And I guess Ramses isn't around. And if anyone was worried that I said Chris is no longer with us in the physical world, I'm just joking around. He's only taking a break. Jay, what about you, buddy?
My Valentine's Day is the weekend because my girlfriend's making me a 100-mile trip tomorrow, so she can go to lectures and stuff. So my Valentine's Day starts tomorrow.
I'm married, so I'm using this 2 hours to avoid my wife at all costs. Then we're going to be in the danger zone from like 9 to 10 before Bellator starts. So, yeah, pray for me.
We will, buddy, we will. And I guess we'll get straight into the MMA. We've been already bullshitting enough for 5 minutes. Today, actually, the most recent news we have to get to for today's show, UFC on FX8 announced in May in Brazil. You're going to have middleweights Vitor Belfort and Luke Rockhold squaring off. Obviously, this fight has a lot of implications for the middleweight title picture. The winner of this fight and Chris Weidman will be at the forefront of getting that title shot whenever Anderson Silva decides to come back and defend that belt. What do you guys think about this fight early on? It's really difficult. When I look at it, Rockhold, I think, has the better cardio and the more well-rounded game, but Belfort's dangerous. He looked great in that first round against John Jones, great against Michael Bisping. What do you guys think?
Yeah, it's going to be a good fight. I think Belfort might... I think it's a little bit harder of a fight than the Bisping fight. Rockhold, like you said, is definitely more well-rounded. He has that cardio. You go 5 rounds, he can take punishment. But we know Belfort always has that knockout power, so, he's still one to watch for that one. I really like this one.
I think I'm going to like Belfort in this fight so far. I think I'd like to see Rockhold do well, but I don't see it happening for him. I think he'll end up striking with him as he tends to enjoy that a bit too much, and Belfort's just too much on the feet.
Yeah, Rockhold's a talent for sure. I'm a huge fan of his. My problem in this fight is he doesn't have the best chin, and Belfort can find that early and often. I do commend him for jumping into deep waters right away, but I got to go with Belfort.
I always find it hard to predict Belfort fights because he's so explosive, but the longer the fight goes on, you feel it favours his opponent. If Belfort can catch him early, like he did he got Bisping in the second round, then it's obviously Belfort's capable of finishing anybody. But I just have a feeling that we'll see Rockhold take Belfort down and kind of outwork him. Similar to the way, a long time ago, the likes of Randy Couture did against Vitor Belfort. And I just think it's Rockhold's time now. I expect Rockhold to get the upset and move on. I think that's why Rockhold's looking for that match. I think he knows he can win that fight.
Yeah, when I look at it, Rockhold does have an amazing record. He's 10-1. He went, I believe, 9-0 in Strikeforce after joining in 2008. Looked incredible. Obviously took the belt from Jacare Souza. But looking at his opponents, Jacare really is the toughest opponent he's faced. He's never fought those top tier guys. And you look at Vitor's record, his resume is probably up there, strength of schedule wise, as him fighting some of the toughest fighters in the world. I think he's the only guy who's fought, he and Stephan Bonner now, the only two guys who fought both John Jones and Anderson Silva. Chael Sonnen obviously about to be added to that list as well. But I like to factor experience in a lot, and I'm leaning Belfort early for Belfort Rockhold just because of experience. And, after that brutal knockout against Anderson Silva, it'd be interesting to see if he could rise back up for a rematch, if any more bad blood would be there like there was in the first fight. And talking about Belfort kind of transitions us pretty smoothly into our next topic, which is that UFC on FX7 card. We found out that somebody tested negative. A lot of people thought it was Vitor Belfort. It ended up being Thiago Tavares. He was suspended for 9 months. Vitor did test positive for TRT. It's really shaky ground. A lot of people are coming out saying you shouldn't be able to use TRT if the reason you have lower testosterone is because you tested positive for PEDs in the past. Personally, I don't think somebody, like Belfort should be punished for something he did so long ago. And if he does indeed have low levels of testosterone and is prescribed TRT by a doctor, should be allowed to use it. But I was wondering what you all thought about this issue, and if former fighters who've tested positive for taking performance-enhancing drugs should be allowed to take testosterone replacement therapy before their fights. Jay?
The case is really interesting. I don't really know where I stand on TRT or anything like that. I think there's a reason it must be there. Some guys abuse it, of course. Vitor Belfort he looked bigger than normal, which kind of makes me think that he had taken it a bit too far. But I personally don't know enough about it to draw a line on it or anything like that. It's a very black and white area, and I'm sitting on the fence. It's benefited some guys in that fight. It looked like it played a huge factor. In some fights, the Thiago Tavares fight, it didn't make any difference at all, especially when Khabib's quite a skinny built guy. It depends on the fighter, and I think Vitor Belfort, in that fight, he might have abused it. He just looked too big.
I'm of the opinion that no one should use it. This is the cycle of life, and the comparison to old lions and young lions comes up in fighting a lot. The idea is that the older guys, they're not as quick, they're not as strong, but they're smarter, they have the experience. And to me, it seems cheap to use something to keep your body going past its prime. If you can't perform at an advanced stage in this sport at an elite level, that's just Mother Nature telling you to wind it down.
I think the worst thing for me is there seems to be a lot of inconsistency with regards to TRT, and not just TRT. I think any of the stuff that people seem to get positive for. It seems to be depending on where you fight, what part of the country, what part of the world. Obviously, I interviewed Matt Riddle last week, and obviously he got done for marijuana, and his fight against Chris Clements was overturned. And he was saying, they're allowed to use TRT because they get a medical card. He gets a medical card for his marijuana because it helps with his nerves. So why is he getting done for it? There just seems to be a lot of hypocrisy. They need to make a stance and make the rules clear so the rules are the same for everybody. I kind of like what Mike says. People shouldn't be able to use it. But if they are going to use it, there needs to be a clear defining rule of what they can do, what they can't do. So then there's none of this BS that we keep getting all the time when no one really knows what's going on.
Yeah, I think Mike pretty much hit the nail on the head with his comment there. It's definitely, like you said, if you have to use it to compete, you probably should step away. I definitely agree that, people that test positive in the past shouldn't be able to use it either because, especially in Vitor's case, he has low testosterone, but the kid has, 3-4 kids? Or the guy has 3-4 kids, so obviously he has plenty of testosterone to pump out babies, so why does he need it? But yeah, that's what I have to say on that.
Yeah, and really everything surrounding TRT is so foggy now. You don't know if head trauma actually leads to lower levels of testosterone. You don't know a lot of the things around the whole big cloud of concussions and head trauma. And TRT seems like it is a real factor. You have a lot of these guys who have lower levels of testosterone. I do agree with Mike, like Ray and Dave, that having the old lions and the young lions is a part of sport, and kind of taking away that factor is a little weird. It's a little fishy, but it's going to be interesting. A lot of stuff is going to be crafted as far as rules and regulations for people testing positive, and obviously TRT. You had Marquardt just a year and a half ago being kicked out of the UFC for TRT and higher levels of testosterone, and now it seems like every week we hear a new name popping up for a 9 or 12 month suspension. It's popping up more and more, getting more and more prevalent, and we'll probably be talking about it more and more until these athletic commissions decide some clear black and white rules on the matter. And we're talking about TRT, talking about performance-enhancing drugs. Who other to segue to next than Chris Cyborg Santos? Been going back and forth with the UFC, saying that she won't drop down to 135. This has been her stance for a while now, saying she has, doctors telling the UFC that it'll be dangerous for her health and she might not be able to have kids. Dana White, laughing at it, saying that's the first time anyone's ever tried that, and it's silly. There's been a lot of going back and forth. Her manager Tito Ortiz, of all people, saying that he's trying to get her out of the UFC. The UFC says they're done with Chris Cyborg, at least for the time being. It's looking like she's not going to have any contract signed with the UFC anytime soon. The question I kind of want to put out there is if you think we'll ever see Cyborg in the UFC. I think we will. She's too much of a draw. She is, without a doubt, whether she failed a drug test a year ago or not, she is the number 2 pound-for-pound female in the world. Plus, the amount of shit-talking that Rousey and Cyborg have been doing leading up to now have been, they've really been barbed and really been ugly, and I think it'd be a shame if that fight never went down. So I think just because money-wise, it would be incredible to turn down. I think we will eventually, maybe not now, but maybe in 6 months, a year, eventually see Cyborg back in the UFC. What do you guys think?
I think you're right. It would be a surprise if the Ronda Cyborg fight never did go down. I think it's a very interesting fight, that one as well, especially when you're trying to analyse division dominance to try and get a real feel out of who is the greatest of all time. I feel that fight will have to go down to make any sort of debate, and I think Cyborg might be able to pull it off, especially with her skill set. She's got the jiu-jitsu. She trains out of Team Punishment, who seem to love their submission defense. I think, as for whether we'll ever see her in the UFC, I think you're right. It's got to happen at some stage, and maybe not quite now, but if she fights a few fights in Invicta, maybe she'll get a catch weight bout for 140, and then she'll be able to test how hard that was, and then she'll eventually be able to step down to 135. If it's seriously the issue of too much muscle mass, it is going to be hard to lose it. So maybe it's just a matter of time.
I do think we'll see Cyborg, but I think it will be at 145. If you look at her frame, she's actually larger than Dominic Cruz, and he's a gigantic male bantamweight. Women can't physically cut as much weight as a male due to the reproductive organs that need more moisture. And I think that if she could make 135, she's not stupid. That's the biggest money she'll ever see in her career. I think she's going to hold her ground, go for 140 or 145 even. And time is on her side because Ronda's going to run out of opponents. There's not enough females at her weight class that can challenge her. We'll talk more about that later, I'm sure, but I think we will see her, but I don't think we'll ever see her at 135.
Yeah, I don't know if we'll see her at 135 either, and I don't know how serious the UFC are yet about doing 145. Obviously, we've seen them sign some new women this week, and like Mike said, we're going to talk about that in a bit. And I was on the conference call this week for UFC 157, and Ronda Rousey said she will not fight at a catch weight. So 140 is out of the question for her, just because obviously her bout is at 135. So if Cyborg wants to fight Ronda, it's going to have to be at 135, and I don't know whether she can make that weight. And obviously, she has stated that she cannot make 135. So I think her being in the UFC will depend on whether the UFC have got enough depth to do a 145 division. And at the minute, they need to concentrate on building, obviously, the women's division they've got.
Yeah, I think at some point we're definitely going to see her. It's inevitable, in my opinion. She's still, fairly young. She's not too old yet where, if it doesn't happen anytime soon, it'll happen, a year or two down the road. The thing is, though, it's just if she loses any time before that, it's really going to kill those chances of put any type of Ronda Rousey fight in the mix there. But same goes for Ronda Rousey. If she loses too, then that kind of crushes those hopes. The biggest thing I said a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about her, I said, she's had over a year now to sit there and try to lose this weight. It's not like she has to do it in, 3 months. She's had over a year now to get that weight down. If she could have stuck to, a nice lean diet and, try to lose some of that muscle mass, not work out as much and work more on like cardio and stuff like that. I think she definitely could make the weight without a problem now that she's able to come back and fight. But, who knows what she spent the last year doing.
Definitely, and it's kind of a shame because if she hadn't tested positive for PEDs, she'd have a lot more chips to gamble with, so to speak. But because she tested positive, she really has no leverage as far as arguing for a catch weight. So if anyone's going to budge, I think it's going to have to be Cyborg. Rousey's comfortable at 135. Dana's got her back, saying that Cyborg's got to come to 135 to fight her. So there's no reason for Rousey to move up. And I don't know who's going to budge there. It's kind of getting almost Pacquiao Mayweather-esque. And we'll keep talking about women's MMA. Miesha Tate, Sarah McMahon, and Alexis Davis this week all signed official contracts with the UFC. There had been rumors for quite a long time now, but they all were kind of mum on the topic, which brings that UFC women's bantamweight roster to 6. Tate, McMahon, and Davis joining Rousey and Carmouche, who will be fighting in a week and a half at UFC 157, and Kat Zingano. Is that her name, Ray?
Yeah, that's right.
Zingano.
Yeah,
I actually looked at her Twitter and saw you had been chatting with her, so maybe check out Kat Zingano on MMA Mental. That roster's rounded out at 6. Obviously, Ronda Rousey is the number 1 at that division. She's been absolutely dominating everyone who's been put in front of her. I think we can agree that Cyborg is the number 2 behind Rousey if she were to join the UFC. But, you have 5 contenders out there: Miesha Tate, Sarah McMahon, Alexis Davis, Zingano, and Carmouche. Who do you think of those 5, or maybe outside of those 5 floating around, just basically anyone other than Cyborg? Who do you think is Ronda Rousey's biggest threat at 135? I think it's Miesha Tate. That first fight was really back and forth, especially compared to all of Ronda's other fights. Miesha Tate, friend of the MMA podcast, got to vouch for. What do you guys think as far as who Rousey's biggest threat is?
It's hard to say at the moment. I mean, we know Sarah McMahon's an Olympian as well, so obviously she's going to be a threat. But I think the biggest thing to remember is this division is just starting out. So obviously people are going to go on a little bit about the depth of the division. And obviously we talked about this a little bit last week. And I remember when the UFC's depth of the light heavyweight division, for example, was basically 3 fighters: Randy Couture, Tito Ortiz, and Chuck Liddell. And you look at that division now, and it's pretty stacked up near the top. And also people are going to talk about the fact that we've got a dominant champion in Ronda Rousey, or people expect her to be dominant. But if you look at every other weight class in the UFC, there's probably 2 divisions that aren't like that, which has obviously been the lightweight division, going on memory, lightweight division and heavyweight division. Pretty much every other division has been dominated as well. So this division is no different to any of the divisions in the UFC. People just need to give it a chance to grow. Out of that list at the minute, I'll probably go towards Sarah McMahon on my limited knowledge. I'm still learning about the women that are coming through, just because she's Olympian as well. But obviously, time's going to tell. But there's going to be people that are going to come through that we don't even know yet. And Ronda Rousey's going to have her day, but she's not going to be the champion forever.
Yeah, I really think out of that list itself, it's definitely Miesha Tate. She's the one to go the longest so far with Ronda, and not 100% sure. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't she slip out of at least one armbar during that fight? Like Jake mentioned, it was going back and forth. She definitely has to stand up to go with Ronda. That's one of her only weaknesses that we've seen so far is her stand up. It's not that crisp yet. But if you're looking outside of the fighters around, I think that I've been saying this for a while now, but I don't know if I ever have because of UFC's beef with Golden Glory, but I would love to see Marlos Kunin in there. I think she stands a decent threat. I would probably still take Ronda in that fight, but I think it would be probably her toughest challenge outside of the couple that we're talking about right now. Next.
Jay?
Sorry, the Rams just not being here is throwing me off here. I think the only threat she's got, other than Cyborg, of course, it's got to be Joanne Calderwood, despite the fact she's a strawweight and she's pretty young in the game. Seriously, I don't think she's got any other threat, unless there's some expert jiu-jitsu girl who I haven't heard of with a good striking game who isn't Cyborg Santos. Really don't know.
I think Tate could do it, but right now I'm looking at McMahon. Very green, but also incredible conditioning and power, with a smart game plan of grinding Rousey against the cage, tiring her out. If she could do it that way, box her against the cage, I think she could pull it off. I do like Tate as an outside contender, though, just for the slicker jiu-jitsu that a lot of the women in the division. But I'd go with McMahon for now.
Yeah, you mentioned tiring out Ronda Rousey. It's kind of funny. We don't know what kind of gas tank Ronda Rousey has, just because all of her fights have gone, 4 minutes or less, or 4 minutes and 50 seconds. With the exclusion of the Miesha Tate fight, all of her fights have been a minute or less. One of the craziest records in MMA history for sure. All these segues are actually coming pretty naturally tonight. So it's helping me out. You were talking about Sarah McMahon being in the Olympics, having that Olympic experience. Everyone's been talking about the Olympics this week. One of just the most boneheaded stories I've seen in a long, long time. The IOC dropping wrestling from the 2020 Summer Olympic Games. They're being thrown into a group with about 6 or 7 other sports that one of them can get a chance to come back into the games, but everyone's thinking baseball and softball are going to win that bid, and wrestling doesn't have that much of a chance. Kind of crazy, especially thinking of the historic relevance that wrestling has with the Olympics, that Greco-Roman wrestling, you had women. I believe wrestling's been around since the Olympics were reintroduced in 1896, and women's wrestling has been around since '96. And it's wild that the IOC is dropping wrestling from the 2020 Summer Olympic Games. It's a travesty. Everyone in MMA, as MMA has such close ties with wrestling, is going crazy about it. What do you guys think about this? It is a damn travesty. Mike?
Honestly, the first time I heard this, I thought it was going to be an article out of The Onion, because it literally makes no sense. It is the oldest sport on the planet. And the entire point of the Olympics is to kind of create a world sporting field. Wrestling requires 2 people, a referee, and a flat surface. Rich or poor, anywhere on the planet, you can wrestle, and there's a rich wrestling tradition in every culture. So to remove this from a cultural phenomenon like the Olympics is mind-boggling.
Right?
I think, sorry, I think I'm going to be coming from a different place to you guys. I think wrestling is very much, in my eyes, very much an American sport. It's not. We don't have wrestling in the UK, as we know with our UK guys that come over and we get to hear them think about it. And they were talking on the comments call the other day. They actually were asking Ronda Rousey and Dan Henderson's views on it, and they weren't that shocked. And especially Dan wasn't that shocked. He was saying it's been in the pipeline for a while, and some of the reasons they moved the sports out is if there's not enough different variation with the winners, if it's being dominated too much by one country or a couple of countries. And wrestling is huge in the States. There's no doubt about it, but it's not that big in the rest of the world, unfortunately, and that's just fact. We don't have college and university and whether bringing wrestlers through like you do in America, and I think that's one of the reasons why it's being pushed out is because there's not enough competition from other countries. It's being dominated too much by the one country, and I believe that's why it's being moved.
How dare you?
Sorry, I couldn't pull Skype back up. But, I can kind of see where Ray's coming from because it does seem like the Americans do kind of dominate it. But, there are other big countries out there that still have a lot of wrestling. You got the Greeks and the Russians and stuff like that. They're big into the wrestling. But, like Mike said, it's one of the oldest sports. I don't think it was as bad as, you had, the Americans dominating softball or anything like that. But, it's just kind of stupid when they take out stuff like that. And, it seems like a lot of people enjoy watching it, too. It seemed like a fan favorite from a lot of people. I just think it's pretty stupid.
I personally hate the idea that it's been removed. I was sat to my screen for the entire Olympics watching TV, just really soaking it in. I was at work a lot of the time, sitting with with my residents at work, and we were all just loving it. I love every sport they put on at the Olympics. I'd hate for any to be cancelled. I watched a lot of the wrestling, finally got to learn some of the rules, some of the basics. I was also watching the judo and the taekwondo. To finally be enjoying it and watching it, and then hearing that it's been cancelled and removed from the Olympics, it's kind of gutting for me. I don't want the Olympics to have to stop doing events. I want them to add more events. I want to see jiu-jitsu. I want to see golf. I want to see, like you guys have said, I want to see baseball and softball come back. I want to see more events in these games, and they're removing some. It's like you guys have said, it's the oldest sport. It's going to change the way that MMA will happen. I don't know whether that's going to mean more wrestlers come to MMA because there's nowhere to go, or whether as a result people stop doing wrestling as there is no Olympics to head to. I mean, that's the aim of all that's the aim of all wrestling athletes, isn't it? To get the gold medal. It's going to change a lot of things. I hate the idea that it's been cancelled. What's left that was in the original games, like the discus throw, the javelin, but then they were done as multiple events. I mean, we've got no chariots anymore. I don't think that would pass through health and safety. I'm gutted it's gone. That's what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, and you know, you bring up the relationship between wrestling and mixed martial arts. That, you know, maybe other than Anderson Silva and Jose Aldo, I think every UFC belt is being held by a wrestler. Velasquez, Jones, St. Pierre. You have the challenger Hendricks, Benson Henderson. Cruz, you know, I'm thinking down the list. Johnson. You have so many of these wrestlers. I do think people will keep wrestling in the States, as being an NCAA champion is a pretty highly esteemed honor, and I don't think the NCAA is going to be cutting wrestling anytime soon. Obviously, you have a lot of these powerhouse wrestling programs in the Pac-10 and Big East or Big Ten that generate a lot of excitement, a lot of champions over there. But it is really a shame that the Summer Olympic Games are not going to include wrestling. Probably there is a White House petition to get it back. If you haven't signed it yet, just Google White House Wrestling Olympics petition, and it'll probably come up. Sign it, make your voice heard, because that is really some BS. We have a lot of other stuff to talk about, fight announcements, a lot of people talking about different training for other fights. Mir's going to Jackson's. Bunch of other fight announcements. UFC 150 is going to be 160 is going to be a blockbuster heavyweight card. But we're going to go to Guess That Tweet first. I guess Ramses isn't going to be around to defend his title, so it's going to be Ray, Mike, Jay, and Dave. Dave is going to be the only one representing Team MMA Podcast, so I hope you do work. Mike, if you aren't familiar, we read out 6 tweets, or it's 5 tweets, and if it's tied, another tweet in overtime, and you have to guess who tweeted that out. We go in snake order, so the first round it'll be Ray, Mike, Jay, then Dave. Second round, Dave, Jay, Mike, Ray, and I'll just go back and forth. Are you guys ready to kick off Guess That Tweet?
Why don't you make it 2 versus 2 and have me and Jay versus Dave and Mike?
Alright, if you insist, Mike, we'll bring you over to the dark side. Team MMA Podcast. We're up 12-5 on these suckers from the UK. We're doing them dirty.
We like Tough 9, UK versus USA.
Yeah, for sure.
We know how Tough 9 went.
Yeah. Gonna get rocked like Hendo versus Bisping. You all ready to go?
I think that ended up as being 2-1 though, so it was okay.
Alright, a Valentine's Day edition of Guess That Tweet. Here we go. There's the music. Alright, tweet number 1. Let me turn down this music just a tad. Alright, perfect. Can you guys hear me well? I guess you guys can't hear the fucking music. Never mind. Alright, number 1. This Valentine's Day sucked. Was spent taking a romantic bath all by myself. Boo, cutting weight. So obviously it's somebody fighting on this upcoming Saturday UFC card. Is it Josh Grisby, Andy Ogle, Ulysses Gomez, or Phil Harris?
This is a really tricky one because they're obviously all fighting. I'm going to go out on a limb and say I'll say Ulysses Gomez.
I'll say Gomez.
I'm going Gomez as well.
Wow, that was my first instinct was Gomez, but just to go against the grain and get a chance, I'm gonna go with Andy Ogle.
Dave, never go against the grain. The answer was Ulysses Gomez. So Ray, Mike, and Jay get an early lead, 1 point. All right, tweet number 2. It's very short, very simple. Valentine's Day Blumpkin. Valentine's Day Blumpkin. Who tweeted this out? Was it Forrest Griffin, Mayhem Miller, Miguel Torres, or George St. Pierre?
Are we doing Snake?
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna go with Mayhem.
So you had Mayhem, you had Griffin, you have
Mayhem Miller, Forrest Griffin, George St. Pierre, and Miguel Torres.
It's got to be outside someone. It's got to be someone outside the UFC, but I don't think. I think Miguel Torres is going to be a little bit smarter. Is it Mayhem Miller?
Is that your guess?
I'm going to go.
That's my guess. Yeah.
All right, Mike.
Miguel Torres.
I'm going to guess Mayhem Miller as well. That was my first thought.
I'm making these too easy for you motherfuckers. Ray J and Dave get the point. It was Mayhem Miller. I just threw in GSP because it kind of cracked me up. The image of GSP thinking Valentine Day Blumpkin. Just sitting back tweeting that. Alright, next tweet. For Valentine's Day, buy my fucking t-shirt, theironcheek.org, or go fuck yourself forever and eat dog shit. Oh wait, no, that's way too easy. That's obviously the Iron Sheik. Third tweet. Happy Valentine's. Please, let's be kind to each other. The violence is getting out of hand. And it is a bunch of boxers. I picked out a bunch of boxers from the last 15, 20 years or so to pick from. So the tweet again, Happy Valentine's. Please, let's be kind to each other. The violence is getting out of hand. Mike Tyson, Lennox Lewis, Evander Holyfield, or Bernard the Executioner Hopkins?
I don't follow any of these boxers. I'm just going to guess that it's Mike Tyson.
I'll go Lennox Lewis.
I'm going Tyson as well.
Yeah, I'm going with Tyson.
Oh, sorry, Jay.
Yeah,
sorry,
I'm going with Tyson as well. So,
Jesus Christ. I made these way too easy this week, apparently. It was Mike Tyson. Ray, Jay, and Dave all get the point. Ray and Jay, the boys from the UK, leading with 3. Mike at 1, Dave at 2. And don't worry, Mike. It seems like occurs to everyone. Yeah, it seems like everyone sort of does kind of shitty in their first round of guess that tweet. All right, number 4. I'm doing it right. Hashtag Valentine's Day. And attached is an Instagram picture of chocolates and wine and a card. I'm doing it right. Hashtag Valentine's Day. Kind of a douchey tweet. And you got kind of douchey Strikeforce middleweights. You got Tim Kennedy, Luke Rockhold, Jake Shields, and Kung Lee. Who you got?
I'm going to go with Tim Kennedy.
Whoa, man, you read those names out pretty quickly. I heard Kung Lee, I heard...
Kennedy, Rockhold, Shields, and Lee.
I will go with, probably Tim Kennedy, why not?
Yeah, I'll go with Kennedy as well.
Right, my first thought was Tim Kennedy, but I don't want to go with everyone else. Who are the other 3?
Rockhold, Shields, and Kung Lee.
I'll go for Kung Lee.
And once again, like Dave in the first round, he shouldn't have gone against the grain. I don't know how the hell. This is easily the most points total people have gotten and guessed that tweet. Everybody's getting it. I've really got to lock it down next time. But yeah, Jay ahead with 4 points. Ray and Dave with 3. Mike with 2. Jay, if you get this next one right and Dave and Ray don't, then you win. So just so you don't pick another answer just to pick another answer, I'm going to put you first in this final regulation round.
Oh, man.
Tweet number 5. Dear Ariane Celeste, will you be our Valentine? And attaches a YouTube video of some Ariane photo shoot. And the 4 Twitters are all company Twitters, all related UFC company Twitters. Was it the UFC Tonight Twitter, the Fuel TV Twitter, the UFC on Fox Twitter, or the UFC Twitter? This grab bag. This is definitely the hardest one of the 5. It's Dear Ariane Celeste, will you be our Valentine? UFC Tonight, Fuel TV, UFC on Fox, UFC.
UFC on Fox, I'm going to go with.
Ray?
I'm going to go for UFC on Fuel.
Dave?
UFC Tonight.
And sorry to make you go last. Mike?
I'll go with Fuel.
You'll go with Fuel as well. Ray and Mike are correct. Moving Ray up. Tied with Jay. Mike and Dave, you all can chime in. You all did actually really incredible. Through 5 tweets, Dave and Mike got 3 correct. Ray and Jay got 4 correct. That's absolutely incredible. You guys read my mind. Tweet number 6. This is a really
9-1 winner in Ross Pearson.
Right,
like
it is
flashing all over.
It's exactly. I'll let Mike and Dave go first. Ray and Jay, I'm flipping a coin. Heads or tails, Ray. Winner goes second, or no, winner goes first, because obviously the second one can't pick what the first person chose. Ray, call it in the air.
Heads.
Heads, it is heads. Jay, you were going second. Ray's going first. Ray will have first pick. I'll let Mike and Dave go first, though, just for the hell of it. Happy Valentine's Day, everyone. I hope you all have a great day with lots of love. And your answers are the 4 heavyweights who are going to be scoring off at UFC 160. Cain Velasquez, Bigfoot Silva, Junior Dos Santos, and Alistair Overeem. Happy Valentine's Day, everyone. I hope you all have a great day with lots of love. I'll just let Mike and Dave go first for the hell of it. Mike?
I'll go Velasquez.
JDS.
All right, Mike.
I'm pretty sure I saw this tweet. I'll go for Alistair Overeem.
All right.
Oh, that means go with Bigfoot then.
All right. Well, wait. So everyone picks a different one? No. Jay, you are allowed to pick Cain, Bigfoot, or Junior. You just can't pick what Ray picked. It isn't like you're down to 1.
Okay. I'll go with Cain then.
Just me and you in the tiebreaker, Jay.
All right, Cain. You know what? Neither of you got it right. The only one who got it right was Dave, Junior Dos Santos. We're gonna need to go into double overtime. Actually,
drama.
The Jesus effing drama. All right, because I actually didn't have a second overtime one ready. We are gonna do one topic and come back and do double overtime. We're gonna talk. We're gonna cover a topic while I dig up a double overtime tweet, and we're gonna get back to it. So Ray and Jay will be battling it out for the championship. Greg Jackson is gonna train Frank Mir for his next fight against Daniel Cormier. Mir's always trained in Vegas, I believe, for every one of his fights before. This is definitely going to be a big change for him. I'm not sure exactly how much this is going to benefit him. I think it will a lot, though. I think this really helps his shots against Cormier. I still don't really give him a shot, even though he just had some crazy upsets at UFC 156. I don't see Mir being able to handle the freakish wrestler that is Daniel Cormier. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think like you said, I still don't think it helps his chances. Cormier is just a beast. Talked about this, I don't know, after his last fight, and we saw Cormier. He didn't look, the greatest out there against, what most people call a can. But now he has plenty of time. Train for this fight was supposed to go down, late last year, or was it the fall, I believe? I don't know, sometime last year. Going with Greg Jansen, this guy hasn't really had that good of a track record recently outside John Jones. So how will this really benefit him? Who knows? Greg is definitely good with keeping fighters at the skill set, but Cormier's a monster of a wrestler. So and you never really know how Amir's gonna be able to take that in effect and be able to stop those takedowns. But he has his jiu-jitsu to battle him out. But I don't know. I think Cormier's just gonna catch him on the feet personally.
I see no way that Frank Mir gets the takedown over Cormier. The only way he gets a takedown or the fight hits the ground is if Mir rocks him. If Mir rocks him, then Cormier might do something stupid like try and take him down and you'll end up in the guard of Frank Mir. Or, I don't really know what to say. The only way I see this fight going down is Cormier knocking him out. I like the fact he's moved to Greg Jackson's, but it's far too late in his career to be making the move. Wins over what? Congo, Crocop, Nelson, Big Nog. Those are all great if you lived in 2009. Nowadays, not really that relevant.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with Jay. It's too little too late. He's been in the game a long time. It'd be really hard to work new aspects into his game. And he's shop-worn. He's been in a lot of brutal fights. I just don't think he has the legs for it anymore. I don't think he has the speed for it anymore. I think DC is going to tune him up bad.
I don't think you can ever really count him out because he does have some great wins and we've seen him. He's able to, submit the guys he's not supposed to submit, knock the guys out he's not supposed to knock out. But it does seem to me like Daniel Cormier is on a different level. And I also think as well, I think the division needs Daniel Cormier to win. We want him to move on and either fight at heavyweight or fight at light heavyweight, where I don't think anyone's really interested in seeing Frank Mir fight for the heavyweight title. Not again. I think we've seen Frank Mir at his best. But yeah, I think it's a good move. He's obviously trying to reinvent himself. But I think, like Jay said, I think Cormier is going to knock Frank Mir out regardless of where he's training.
Definitely. I think we all think that Daniel Cormier offers a really heavy challenge to anyone he's going to go up against, and him or the prospect of him going down to fight John Jones. That would be really fun. The reason I'm stammering is I'm getting this double overtime tweet ready. Ray and Jay, I'm queuing the music back up. You guys ready to finish this?
Let's finish it.
All right, let us finish it. We'll just keep it between Ray and Jay this time. And the tweet is, know what I got for Valentine's Day? Exactly what I wanted. Absolutely nothing. It's just another hashtag bullshit, hashtag holiday. Which UFC lightweight tweeted that? Was it Spencer Fisher? Yves Edwards? Sam Stout? Or Mark Bocek?
Jay, you're first. Sorry, first last.
I heard. I'm trying to think now. I'm going to guess Mark Bocek.
I'm going to guess hashtag Thugjitsu.
Hashtag Thugjitsu. Ray has it correct, and Ray is this week's champion. Jay still 0 wins. Ray gets his second Guess That Tweet championship. Ray, you have a winner's speech prepared for us?
Sweet.
Sweet.
I'm going to stay as the
You don't get a loser's speech. No.
The Chael Sonnen of the. I've only come third once. All the other times it comes second. I'm happy with this. You know what? I'm not even going to say I'm Chael Sonnen. I prefer being John Fitch. I don't even make this fun. I'm just second, and it's boring.
All right, Dave, are you definitely going to be on the show next week? Or
as of right now, yeah, I'll find out later on, like early next week.
All right, well, let us know because you are tentatively slotted to host Guess That Tweet next week, and if you can't, let me know, and I'll put someone else in for you. A point to MMA Mental, making it 12-6. Still not even respectable, but you're getting closer.
It is respectable.
One at a time, not even respectable. All right, we were talking about fights coming up, that Mir Cormier fight. Gustafsson fights, Alexander the Mauler Gustafsson, 205-pound contender, is going to fight Gegard Mousasi, coming over from Strikeforce. They're going to fight on April 6th. And the UFC saying he's going to get a title shot with that win. Does he deserve it? I don't think so. I think you have to give it to the winner of Machida versus Henderson. You gave Henderson the title shot long ago, it seems like, probably 6 or 7 months ago now. Dana White promised a title shot to the most impressive finish at UFC on Fox 4. That was obviously Machida, and he said at the press conference after he would get the fight. I think Henderson and Machida both have more legitimate claims to fighting for that belt, and with a win against the other would obviously be the number one contender. So I don't really agree with it. Maybe let Alex fight after Jones versus whoever wins, Machida versus Henderson in a week and a half. But those are my thoughts on that. What do you guys think, Jay?
If you don't have an opinion about something, you've got to kind of let it go. And I haven't really thought of a good opinion about this yet. I think Gustafsson. I can't really. I think Machida and Hendo. My mind's still swirling. Skip me on this one.
Mr. Hammersmith? Sorry, go ahead.
Yep. I agree with you on it should be whoever wins Machida versus Hendo. This is a good backup fight. They're both older guys, Machida and Hendo. It could be that an injury forces both of them out of the title fight. And I'd have no problem with that if Gustafsson won this fight and got in there.
I think that Dana's a little bit pissed at Hendo and Machida for the UFC 151 thing, because obviously Henderson got himself injured. Not his fault, but he got injured. And then Machida turned the fight down at short notice. And obviously Machida's also already fought Jones as well. And also, they're obviously trying to build a European brand. So having this as a main event in Sweden, obviously that's Gustafsson's hometown or home country. Obviously Mousasi is a great fighter coming over. They want to try and make that fight mean something. So it's going to headline a card, and they're going to promote a whole event on that one fight. I've got to make it relevant. So I can see why he's doing it. And if Gustafsson does win, he has been on a good win streak. He has beat some good people, apart from that joke he beat in Sweden last year. But I'm only joking, Jay. But I don't mind seeing Jones versus Gustafsson.
Yeah, if he says he deserves it without putting the Machida Henderson fight into question, then yes, he would deserve it if he beats Gegard. But I, like everyone else, has pretty much said that I still think Machida and Henderson, the winner of that, should definitely get the next title shot for the reasons I already stated. But I wouldn't really be pissed and moaning if Alex the Mauler did get the shot if he did beat Gegard.
For sure, yeah. Gustafsson has looked impressive coming off that win against Shogun. Do any of you guys think Gegard has a shot to beat Gustafsson? After seeing Shogun Gustafsson, I don't think he does. What are your guys' opinions on that?
I do have an opinion on this one. I think that this is really experience that Mousasi has. He's got the experience edge over Gustafsson, because Gustafsson's got the better technical striking. And the thing Mousasi's going to have to deal with is the reach. And the reach is always a problem for anyone. And if Mousasi can't overcome that, he's got no hope of beating John Jones. I think Mousasi, I don't know what anybody's on about beating a joke in Sweden as well. I think Mousasi's more of a joke than Thiago Silva, but that's just my opinion. But if he has a shot, yeah, he does. If Gustafsson keeps it on the feet, then Mousasi is no joke, except for the fact he couldn't finish Keith Jardine. That felt like a joke to me.
In theory, on paper and all that, Mousasi is the better striker. But he has looked terrible in every outing he's had in the last 2 years. Could be injuries, it could be a mental thing. I'm not sure. He's looked great in pure striking bouts, but I just don't think he could put it together in MMA. So Yeah, he's got an outside shot, but I think the Mauler can stay on the outside and beat him to a pulp.
I'm picking Gustafsson to win this fight, but I don't think you can ever really count Mousasi out. And I know what Mike's saying about him looking terrible, but he got robbed against Keith Jardine, and the only time, if I'm right, that he's lost is when he faced the wrestler, which was obviously King Mo. So I don't think you can count him out of the fight at all, because he is a dangerous striker, and obviously that's Gustafsson's game as well. And Gustafsson did look good against Shogun, but Shogun is an aging Shogun, so I'm picking Gustafsson to win, but I don't think you can discount Mousasi.
Yeah, I'm pretty much going to side with everyone else, too, and say that, too. I definitely think the Mauler definitely could, not definitely could win, but definitely will win. Velocity definitely has a shot. Like Ray brought up, fighting the average, or the aging Shogun. Shogun was looking good those first 2 rounds, and it just kind of faded out just because that just seems what he does these days. Velocity, I like to agree with Mike, too. He definitely, who knows what the hell goes on with this guy's head. He has tons of skills, and almost has like brain farts sometimes in there. And then when Ray brought up the King Mo fight, he was doing well off his back, but just obviously it's hard to win a fight when you're fighting off your back the whole entire time, even though he was landing more strikes and still looked pretty good out there. So yeah, I think he has a shot, but I still think that the Mauler will take the victory.
For sure, yeah. That's going to be an awesome card, but I think Gegard has the tools to make it a close fight. Obviously, that real smooth kickboxing style, but Mauler's a beast. He's like a 205-pound Dominic Cruz, and I see him cruising past Gegard Mousasi. See what I did there with my words? All right. Probably the biggest announcement as far as fight announcements go of the week. Dana White was over in Ireland. Unfortunately, after his speech, he fell ill with a bout of Meniere's syndrome, but before he had to be escorted off stage, he announced that UFC 160, we're going to see a couple of heavyweight bouts. We're going to see Cain Velasquez defend his title against Bigfoot Silva, who just beat Alistair Overeem. Junior Dos Santos, Alistair Overeem, coming off losses against those two gentlemen, had a lot of words for each other. Obviously, this is going to be a couple really interesting matches. Cain and Bigfoot, it's a rematch from when Cain whooped Bigfoot. But, if anyone knows about being whooped hard and coming back and needing to keep your top form in the rematch, it's Cain, because he just did the same thing to Junior Dos Santos. And he versus Overeem, that's going to be a fight with a lot of trash talking. I'm looking forward to both of them. Let's talk about the first one first. Cain versus Silva. I just don't see how Bigfoot's going to win this. How crisp Cain looked standing up. I even think Cain could challenge Silva standing up, but you know what? That's not what's going to happen. Cain is not going to keep this fight standing up. He's going to put Silva on his ass the entirety of the fight, probably, until it gets stopped. Silva had no answer for those takedowns, just like Junior Dos Santos didn't in that rematch, and I see Cain cruising to his first title defense. What do you guys think goes down? Velasquez versus Silva to UFC 160.
Exactly what you just said, period.
Silva, his problem is he's a slow starter, and we've seen that in his last fights where he survived and then came on later and finished guys like Brown and Overeem. Velasquez is a fast starter, and right there, that's just a recipe for disaster for Bigfoot. I think it plays out almost identically to the first one.
I do think that Bigfoot deserves the shot he's getting just for what he did against Alistair Overeem, because I think everybody writ him off in that fight, and he rode the storm, and then he come back, and the way he knocked him out was very, very impressive. But after seeing their first fight, it's very hard not to pick Cain Velasquez, because he just looked so awesome in that fight, and then he looked so awesome against JDS as well. I don't expect this fight to get out of the first round, to be fair. I think he'll just destroy him in that first round.
Yeah, it's going back to Overeem versus Bigfoot, where no one gave Bigfoot a chance, and I think it's going to be like that again, except this time, we definitely know it's more of a truth because we saw what happened the first time these guys fought. But ever since Bigfoot did lose to Cain, he's lit a fire in his ass, and who knows, in my opinion, that's the only way he could win if he takes it to the later stages and just gets that confidence boost and puts a hurting on Kane. But I really don't see that happening. I think Kane definitely going to win in the first round again.
And I agree with all of you. You know, a lot of people are going to make a bunch of comparisons between this rematch and the Kane Dos Santos rematch. But the difference a lot of people aren't going to pick up on, in that first Kane Jr. fight, that was a flash knockout. Anyone with the kind of boxing and power that Junior Dos Santos has can get that at any time, no matter if he's the better fighter or not. You look at Kane versus Bigfoot 1, that was not a flash anything. That was the better fighter dominating the weaker fighter. And unless Bigfoot's had some crazy revelation in his training or Kane is injured, the latter probably being the more likely of the two, I see Velasquez cruising. Let's talk about the other fight, Junior Dos Santos, Alistair Overeem. This one you're probably going to see a lot more trash talk. And if you would have told me before UFC 155 that Dos Santos and Overeem would fight next, I'd be like, awesome, Overeem's going to beat Silva and Dos Santos is going to beat Kane. Not so much. They're still going to fight, though. I actually think it's a win-win all around. The only reason I was mad that Junior lost to Kane was that we wouldn't see Alistair Overeem Dos Santos, and now we are. The smooth kickboxer Alistair Overeem, the Dutchman, K1 champion, Dream champion, Strikeforce champion. But one thing that he's never been, Junior has been, is UFC champion. It's a classic, boxer versus kickboxer matchup, and they are at the top of the list in each one of the categories. I cannot fucking wait for it. As far as who I think wins, Alistair Overeem, he did lose to Silva pretty convincingly. I guess Junior lost the same fashion to Kane, but I think as long as Overeem keeps his hands up, that kickboxing is real smooth. Dos Santos isn't going to have the kind of range Overeem's going to have, and it's probably going to be a striking match. And just because of that range Overeem has, and the fact that he can clinch up and land a few of those uber knees, I have Overeem in this one.
I see where you're coming from. I think Overeem, he's got a clinch game. He does enjoy the takedown more than he probably should as a kickboxer. Now, he's a world champion kickboxer. Dos Santos doesn't have anywhere near the striking background that he's not a professional boxer, whereas Overeem could always retire and become a kickboxer. With all that said, his chin is not perfect. Overeem's chin is nowhere near as good as Dos Santos' and Dos Santos might gas. He's never looked great in the third round. I mean, even the second round at times you're starting to question whether he's still going to finish the fight. With all that said, Dos Santos' chin probably won't give up on him quite yet at this age. Overeem looked pathetic. Overeem without drugs it just isn't the same fighter. If he does drugs again, he'll probably be able to beat Dos Santos. But what I saw of Overeem in that last fight, unless he goes away and really looks at what he did wrong, he loses this fight by knockout in the first.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with Jay. If you missed Overeem's early career in Pride, it was almost a joke how easily he was knocked out back then. He was knocked out with a hammer fist on the ground by Shogun that barely even hit him. He's been knocked out several times. Packing on 60 pounds of muscle doesn't fix a weak chin. Dos Santos proved you could hit him in the head with anything you want, and he's not going down. I do think Overeem can take him out with a body kick or a body knee, and it's going to be a dicey minute and a half in this fight, but if it makes it past that, I think Junior Dos Santos takes it with a knockout.
I think the biggest factor that I take from what Jay said was the Overeem without drugs, because obviously, you don't need to be a genius to concede that, fighting overseas and not, fighting away from the US, it's especially fighting in Japan, the rules over there are just absolute terrible. You can do and take whatever you want, which is why a lot of the Jammer stars and the Pride FC stars have come over and not really had the impact I think was expected. But yeah, it's very hard to predict this fight because they're both coming off losses which we didn't expect. Like Jake said, no one really thought that that either of those guys were going to lose those less heavyweight bouts. We all thought it was going to be JDS Overeem for the title. and now we're obviously getting JDS over him. It's kind of like a third place match, isn't it? But
MMA Mental.
I don't know what's going to happen yet. It's such a hard fight to predict. I'm thinking that the difference will be the fact that JDS will be fighting the way he's always fought, where Overeem won't be because he's not going to be on the stuff that he's used to being on. So I think JDS will get the win. I don't think it'll be first round though. I think he'll get tired like he did against Silva, make a mistake, and JDS will finish the fight.
Yeah, I have to agree with everyone that said that. This fight is hard to predict. I think a lot of that is based on the way the last time we saw both these fighters in the octagon. Both didn't look nowhere near as what we're used to seeing with these guys. Overeem looked real hesitant to get things going and throw combos on the feet against Bigfoot. And I mean, everyone knows Bigfoot doesn't have the greatest shit, and he seemed a little, hesitant to start throwing and trying to knock this guy out. He seemed content with just trying to sail to the decision. I mean, he was throwing some power shots, but at the same time, he wasn't throwing enough. I don't really see him wanting to go a little throw happy against JDS, who has a way better stand-up and a stronger chin than Bigfoot has. So, I really think it's a hard fight to predict. And we know we saw Dos Santos. He just looked like the zombie in that fight against Kane. He just, who knows, but, you go back to, his excuses with the personal problems and all that stuff. So now he has all that behind him. I think we're going to, in my opinion, I think Dos Santos has the edge in this one, just for the fact that, he has those strong-ass heavy hands, and he isn't really afraid to throw them as much as Overeem looked like he was in his last fight.
I don't know if I agree if he looked like Chan Sung Jung, but I agree on all other counts. And I guess one more fight announcement before we move on to the Bonehead of the Week. In our preview of this Saturday's UFC on Fuel 7 card over in England, and this one is a championship fight announced. Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson to defend his belt against John Moraga, I don't know how to pronounce that, at the Ultimate Fighter 17 finale on April 13th. And the question I'm going to pose is quite simple. Does Moraga or Moraga, however you say his name, have a chance? I really don't think so. The way Johnson's been putting away people, Creepy, Benavidez, Dodson, all who I think of as better fighters than Moraga. I don't think he has a chance in this one.
Well, the funny thing is, you just say putting away fighters. He hasn't done that yet. And Moraga is an absolute murderer early in a fight. He didn't look that great in his last bout, but against Gomez, he really saw what he brings to the table. And that's a killer instinct, an ability to mix elbows, knees, whatever he needs to take you out. And if Mighty Mouse gets off slow, I think he can bully him. He's a larger man. I think he can hurt him early. As the fight goes on, his chances definitely diminish, though. I'll say Mighty Mouse takes it, but I'm not going to count the guy out.
Just have to say, laugh out loud at the comment of Mighty Mouse putting people away, because he hasn't put anyone away. He got lucky against McCall because some idiot couldn't count properly, and then obviously the next fight he won. Benavidez' fight was extremely close. He did do well against Dodson, but some people saying he should have had a point deducted for an illegal strike, which would have made the contest closer. But John Moraga, on the other hand, he's shown power in his hands, and also the submission over Carriosa was very impressive as well. And Carriosa was considered, in and around the top 10 at bantamweight, so he's no joke. And Moraga, it was a pretty even fight, but then that submission was a hell of a finish. I think Moraga's definitely a threat, and I think he's the right guy to fight Mighty Mouse next as well, in my opinion. And like Mike said, his knockout of Ulysses Gomez was absolutely brutal. So yeah, I think it's going to be a good fight. I suppose you're always going to side with the champ, I think, in most cases, but Moraga's not an easy fight.
Yeah, Mike brought up he's to start off a fight, and going back to Mighty Mouse's fight with Dodson, we've seen Mighty Mouse get rocked quite a few times in that fight. Nothing that really hurt him, but Moraga probably hits harder than Dodson, so it'll be real interesting to say. Like the rest of you guys, I'm definitely still going to side with the champ, but I think Moraga has a decent chance at beating him.
I can see why anybody has the thoughts that Demetrius Johnson is killing everybody, especially in the division whereby Well, he's not killing anyone, first of all. He barely actually hurts anyone. But I can see why he's looking so dominant. But when you've only got 13 people in an entire UFC division, yes, I counted them up on UFC.com, you start kind of thinking, how well is he actually doing? And people are also saying that they've never even seen John, as in they wouldn't be able to recognise his face, and that does make sense, since I think he's fought his last 2 fights in the prelims. As for how much of a chance he's got, I think anybody's got a chance, and he is very explosive and he is very quick, and he caught Carrier with the guillotine, so he's clearly got more to his game than just striking. But Demetrius Johnson has got the wrestling, even though his wrestling isn't the best in the entire MMA community. He'll probably have enough to beat Moraga in this one.
Definitely, and just to clarify, I don't mean he's putting people away, finishing them. Really, that Dodson fight was the closest fight of his last 3. He dominated Benavidez and McCall in those 2 prior fights. When it went to the decision, there was absolutely no question who was the winner of either fight. Dodson. I actually judged that myself and saw it Johnson by a point, which is very interesting if you bring up the fact, should Johnson have been charged a point for those 2 fouls he committed during the fight? But I guess that's another conversation for another day. You guys ready for the Bonehead of the Week?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it.
Boom, 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 boom.
Alright, my Bonehead of the Week, it's very simple. The IOC, International Olympic Committee, scrapping wrestling from the 2020 Olympics. Just doesn't make any sense. Like Mike said, I thought it was more of a joke when I heard it. Save Olympic wrestling. What do you mean, save Olympic wrestling? Olympic wrestling's fine. I think most of us didn't even know Olympic wrestling was threatened, thought it was doing absolutely fine. The IOC cuts it. It doesn't have that good of a chance to be brought back. There are petitions going out. I don't know how successful or effective those are going to be. I hope they are effective, because wrestling really does deserve not only a spot in the Olympics, but a special spot in the Olympics. And the fact that you're thinking about not making the Olympics a quote-unquote core sport, it is egregious, and the fact that the word corruption is floating around there in the story too makes it even more egregious. It's absolutely insane. Far and away, the IOC is my Bonehead of the Week. Mike?
I'm going with Rashad Evans, because I'm still mad about that fight. It didn't happen this week, but whatever. He had a golden opportunity with this fight. If he looks good, he could drop down to fight Anderson Silva. Part of my life is being a fight analyst, and I literally have no idea what he was trying to do. It looked like he was trying to set up a counterpunch for 15 minutes, knowing it was not working, and never adjusted. So I'm still angry about it, but he would be my Bonehead of the Week.
Mine is going to be Dana White for even thinking that Kane versus Bigfoot. First of all, thinking that it's an acceptable fight, and secondly, for thinking that people might actually buy it. If anybody thinks Bigfoot's got a chance in this fight, they've got to go away and re-watch Cain Velasquez versus Bigfoot, the first fight, because he's going to get taken down, and he's going to get elbowed, he's going to get punched from the guard, and Overeem is Bigfoot, I may as well be the bonehead with that sort of mistake. He's got to learn something from his back, because that's exactly what Kane's going to do. Just take him down straight away. And maybe just this time, Bigfoot won't go for a leg kick within the first 15 seconds of the fight.
Yeah, I'm going to switch my bonehead to myself, because I realize it's kind of stupid for picking Frank Mir for going to Greg Jackson's gym. I realize that he's probably not going there to train wrestling to get takedowns on Cormier. I think he's going to go there to try to prevent them. I thought about that after I picked him. That's probably not the greatest one to pick. But I've been away for a few weeks, so excuse myself on that behalf. So I'm definitely going to stick with myself for this week.
My bonehead is Christine Cyborg Santos for talking all the smack about the fight with Ronda Rousey. Then when push comes to shove, I can't make the weight. Can we do it at 140? Blah 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 blah. And then obviously she's now asked to be released. So there's nothing worse than talking the talk if you're not going to walk the walk. So for me, my bonehead is Christine Cyborg Santos.
Oh, and I'm the bonehead for not realizing you were the last one to go. Sorry, my mom just got an iPad mini and I was fiddling with it. All right, who I have for my bonehead? You know, if it's on the table, I am really tempted to go with Rashad Evans, but Cyborg Santos, I don't understand what her motives are. You know, I'm a big believer of, you know, the saying, strike while the iron's hot. You know, sow your seeds while the sun's still in the sky. And Cyborg, this is her opportunity to get in the UFC and have a blockbuster fight. Dana hasn't confirmed how long the division's going to be around for. The fact that Cyborg's being so tentative, I don't know. Guess what, Cyborg? There's nothing else around. Don't give me I don't know. Give me I'll join the UFC, because that's the only place where I can generate any sort of money. I mean, literally, the next promotion down that'll be looking for her, Invicta maybe, might pay her, what, a 10th? I don't understand her motives at all. Just drop the extra 5 pounds and shut the hell up, Chris Cyborg. Where does your vote go, Mike?
I actually don't understand how this works, honestly.
All right, sorry, sorry for not explaining. We all throw a nominee in the hat, and then of the 4 that aren't your own, you pick which you think is the bonehead of the week. So you choose between the IOC, Dana White, Chris Cyborg, and Frank Mir as your bonehead of the week.
All right, gotcha. I would go the IOC. You know, we've been over that. Absolutely ridiculous decision. Makes no sense in context of the Olympic Games. So definitely bonehead of the week there.
Oh, they're all good. Just so I know, did Dave say Frank Mir, or did he select himself?
Selected himself.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Well, I would be picking Mike with Rashad Evans, but if somebody's actually going to come forward and nominate himself, I've got to go with Dave, just for the fun of it, man.
Yeah, you know, we talked about this before we went live on air when we were discussing who we're all picking for the boneheads, and you know, I said right from the get-go that no matter what, I'm sticking with the IOC when it comes to this point. So there's my answer: the IOC. Those dumb fucktards.
I'm not overly fussed by the whole wrestling thing because it's just not my thing. But I agree with what Mike said about Rashad Evans. I know it was over a week ago, but that was one of the worst game plan ever. We've all seen Little Nog fight against wrestlers before. Ryan Bader, Jason Brills. They set you the blueprint of how to beat him. I know Brills lost by a split decision, but a lot of people felt Brills won that fight. Evans then decides to try and stand with someone whose strength is boxing. Not smart. So yeah, Rashad Evans, a belated bonehead for me.
Belated bonehead to Rashad Evans, which gives the overall bonehead of the week to the IOC. They are very deserving. Let's get to UFC on Fuel 7. We're only going to cover the main card. So I guess that first fight on the main card is Che Mills versus Matt Riddle. Obviously, Riddle called out Dan Hardy a little while ago, was talking about the butter tooth Brits, so I'm sure he'll get a warm reception in England. The way I see this going down, Mills obviously is the better guy standing up. He has some smooth boxing that Riddle just, I don't know if Riddle's going to want to go into deep waters, so to speak, with Mills standing up. But in the last couple fights, Riddle has really gotten back to his wrestling. I believe he won his last 2 fights by unanimous decision, if I'm not mistaken. I think I have his Wikipedia up so I can check that right now. His last fight was
a no contest against Clements.
Oh no, his
standing arm guillotine.
Yeah, his last fight was actually the John McGuire unanimous decision, but before that he had the no contest submission. Really impressive submission, that one. But of course he tested positive for marijuana. He's looking real good. And I think he will be able to put Mills on his back and cruise to a unanimous decision against the Brit.
Well, it's funny you should watch
the butter-toothed Brit. Sorry.
So I should say about Matt Riddle, because I interviewed Matt Riddle last week, and we talked about the Dan Hardy thing because obviously he had called out Dan Hardy, but he says now he doesn't want to fight Dan Hardy now because he doesn't want to fight a guy coming off a loss, and he feels that Dan Hardy and Matt Brown Matt Brown is a bad matchup for Dan Hardy, which I can see where he's coming from because Matt Brown's been on a good run. But yeah, I think Matt Riddle's being overlooked a lot in this fight. There's a lot of hype about Che Mills' striking. We know how good Che Mills is at striking. But Matt Riddle is a bit like Matt Brown. He comes out and beats the guys he's not really supposed to beat. I think the fight will start standing. Riddle will throw a few strikes. Once he gets rocked, he'll come in and shoot for the takedown. And from there, he'll look to wrestle. And Che Mills will make it hard for him. And Che Mills is definitely capable of knocking him out with punches or knees. But I think Riddle will get a decision win. And after this fight, if Riddle wins, Riddle has said he wants to fight John Hathaway next. He said that to me on the MMA Mental podcast.
Yeah, I think Ray brought up good points there. I think he's 100% right on that. Che Mills has that knockout power and definitely could knock out Riddle. But, Riddle definitely has his wrestling and his submission skills to win the fight. I personally see Riddle just going the distance in this one. There's a good chance he submits him. I definitely don't see him knocking Che Mills out. But, if he does submit him, we'll probably be somewhere, in the second round to the third round. I definitely see the first round just being played out, just seeing, closing his distance and, feeling out Che Mills a little bit. But yeah, I definitely like Riddle in this one.
Oh, sorry, that was me. My bad. I've got Mills in this fight. I think Riddle might have bitten off a bit more than he can chew in this fight. I mean, like you guys were saying, he's been calling out some big names. I'm surprised that this fight wasn't actually Dan Hardy, but I think Dan Hardy versus Matt Brown is far more exciting to watch. It'll be fantastic. Now, I got Che in this fight. However, an interesting point that wasn't brought up by Jake, because he probably hasn't realised it, but every single person on the undercard is in the prelims. They're all coming off losses, every one of them. So there's an interesting
They're all Buttertooth Brits.
Not all of them. You've got people like Danny Castillo as well.
You have one in every fight.
I'm going to go with Mills here. It's a matter of, yes, Riddle has wrestling, but is he even going to use it? He's shown that he's more willing to fight for a fight of the night check sometimes than a win bonus. And even so, he's not a shooter. He is a clinch grappler. And you have to close distance with a guy if you want to clinch with him. Mills is an absolute vicious striker. KO power with every limb. And, it's a matter of is Riddle going to play with him on the feet? In that case, he goes to sleep. Or is he going to rush for a takedown? And even then, that's not a guarantee. So I'm going to go with Mills, probably a second-round knockout.
True enough. The next fight, we got a light heavyweight fight between James Tehuna and Ryan Jimmo. We actually recently had Jimmo on our podcast. He was a lot of fun to chat with. But, Jimmo versus Tehuna. Obviously, I kind of got to go with Jimmo here just because he came on our podcast, and Tehuna was going to come on our podcast and backed out. Both of them are coming off a lot of wins. Jimmo on a crazy streak. He actually lost his first fight of his career, 17-0 since. 1-0 in the UFC after coming over from the MFC, defeating Anthony Perosh. Haven't seen a lot of him in the UFC yet. We've literally only seen him fight in the UFC in the octagon for 7 seconds. So a lot to see from Jimmo. James Tehuna has a lot more UFC experience, 4-1 in his UFC fights. His only loss against arguably the number one contender, Alexander Gustafsson. I think it's going to be really, really close, but like I said before, just because he came on the show, I got Jimmo. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, quite honestly, I really don't know who to take in this fight. I'm just so happy it's going down. I think it's going to be an awesome fight. I really don't even care who wins. I'm just really excited to see this fight. I like both guys. Like Jake just brought up, I mean, we haven't really seen a lot of Jimmo in the UFC. I mean, obviously he's fought in other organizations, and, I've heard of him before, but I have to admit the first time I ever seen him fight was that first fight. So, I mean, and he fought that aging Anthony Perosh, who's definitely, just definitely went downhill the past couple of years. Not a couple of years, over the past year. He just definitely doesn't have it anymore, it would seem. James Tehuna is definitely a monster on the feet. He broke his was it both hands or a hand and a foot or something in his last fight. He still won. So yeah, it's going to be a great fight either way. I really don't have a winner yet.
I like most people, have been blown away with Jimmo. I mean, it seems like he's had the most success when he's fought guys with incredible power and walked out of it with the win. I mean, there's some big names on his record that people are looking past. I mean, you've got people like Zach Cummings, who's currently on TUF. You've got Anthony Perosh, who seems to fall down like a plank of wood or something. And you've even got Sokoji. There are names on his record. I'm really torn on this fight, and this is going to be a great stand-up fight. I think that Jimmo might be able to outlast him. I mean, he's fought for 25 minutes a few times now, and he's won quite a few handy decisions. We've really yet to see James Tahuna's gas tank as well. That's the other thing. He seems to get things done pretty quickly. I mean, however, his grappling game is really quite susceptible, as we've seen. He's been caught by Gustafsson, who's really not the best jiu-jitsu or submissionist we've seen in the octagon. However, that all being said, I think who am I going to side with? I'm going to go with Jimmo to get the upset.
With Jimmo, what I see is somebody that if you play his game, he'll beat you. Kind of like a larger version of Machida. Tahuna is the most dangerous fighter he's ever fought. And Tahuna will not play his game. He will go in, he's aggressive, incredibly physical. I think he's going to take down Jimmo, much like Antoine Britt did when Jimmo tried to get in The Ultimate Fighter and just found a hole in his head.
Before I give my view on this fight, me being me, I love to try and pick errors in what people say. And Jay said that everyone on the prelims was coming off a loss, and it's not actually the case. There's one person not coming off of a loss.
One person not.
Idiot.
Yeah. You said everyone.
Who is it?
Nekov.
Yeah. No, he's coming off a loss over Silva.
No, he's not.
No, that didn't count because it's in China. It wasn't regulated. There is no regulations in China, meaning it isn't officially a no contest.
It was no contest because Thiago Silva was overturned because he failed a drug test because he's a junkie.
But did he actually, as in, we're going to have to check out the record for this one because I don't think he actually got suspended. Because
it says here, no contest. I'm reading it.
Under what?
Wiki.
Yeah, Wiki's not real. I'm checking Sherdog.
It is
Sherdog's
real.
a bitch.
It's real.
Sherdog's also got a no contest. Right, nobody's coming off a win. Nobody's coming off a win, yeah?
You can't change your story now.
Look, if you actually...
Sit down and shut up.
Look at these cheeky old chaps.
Are you ready to read this? This is the biggest load of biased bullshit I've heard from a company in ages. No contest, overturned by promoter. So what's next? The UFC's going to say, you know what? Cain Velasquez never did beat Bigfoot. You know, it was no contest because it's overturned. How can you overturn it? You're a promoter. You're not the NSAC. That's bullshit. I'm angry now. You got me angry.
Was Cain peeing out horse urine, or I wasn't aware?
How does a promoter have authority to overturn a bout? That is rigging. This is mafia.
How do you submit animal urine in your drug test? Is the real question that should be asked right now. Come on, son.
We've been over this. He is a centaur. How do you overturn a fucking decision? This is bullshit.
This is exciting. I love causing up trouble. Right, back to James Tahuna, Ryan Jimmo. It's hard to judge Ryan Jimmo because of his last fight was obviously that quick knockout of Anthony Perosh. And I've never really been impressed with Perosh anyway, to be fair. But every time we see Tahuna, he just comes out on fire and he just comes out to strike. And I see him closing the distance on Jimmo. I don't see this fight going past round one, because I think both guys are capable of knocking the other one out. But I fancy James Tahuna to blast through Ryan Jimmo, personally. I think it'll be a round one knockout. That's my view.
Oh, shit. And once again, I didn't realize you were the last one speaking. I really agree with what Mike says. James is the best person he's ever fought. He's very aggressive, and is going to take the more aggressive style in the fight. We'll move on to another welterweight bout. We have Gunnar Nelson, who never lost a fight in his career, coming off his first UFC fight, a win against DeMarcus Johnson. And you have Jorge Santiago He's on an interesting streak of his own. 1-2, lost 2, 1-2, and now here we are. He lost against Brian Stan and Damian Maia, and then actually left the UFC, went to Titan FC, and defeated a couple no-names. Now he's back in the UFC, fighting Gunnar Nelson. Pretty interesting stylistically. We've seen that George or Jorge, whatever you want to call him, he's not the most consistent fighter. Lost 2 of his last 4, and Nelson has just been impressing the shit out of me with his ground game. All 5 of his last wins are first round submission victories. And I see the streak keeps on rolling. I have another first-round submission victory for the man from, what is he, from Iceland? Gunnar Nelson. Yep. Submission victory. Jay?
Sorry, I'm still sitting here and a bit of anger, to be honest. That's bullshit, but whatever. Moving on. That's the fight really, it's the only fight on the card I'm really, really dying to see. Gunnar Nelson, he looked fantastic in his last bout. I heard he even submitted Jeff Monson in a grappling battle. Oh, I'm still heated up. I've got to say, Gunnar Nelson, I've got him. I'm a huge fan of Jorge. He seems like he's the best fighter in the world that's not in the UFC, that can't perform in the UFC, Seems like all his losses have only ever come when he's been fighting in the UFC. But Gunnar Nelson just looks on another level right now, and it's going to be really interesting to see how he fares against a great submissionist. But not just a great submissionist, a great middleweight as well. It's going to be interesting. I'm excited for this fight.
I'm all over Nelson in this. By nature, I'm a bit of a pessimist with prospects coming in. That's just how I dissect fights. I like to pick apart people's weaknesses, and he really doesn't have any. Unbelievable ground game, and something that goes under the radar is that his karate is actually fantastic. It comes from a very old-school style of bare-knuckle karate. I'm going to go for the wacky prediction here. I think he's going to knock out Jorge Santiago within the first minute. I'm
loving that prediction. Me and Jay were in Sweden when Gunnar Nelson fought DeMarcus Johnson, and that was such a one-sided fight. And Gunnar Nelson, he looked awesome in that fight. I'm excited for the whole card. I'm always excited for the UFC cards. But I'm looking forward to the whole card. But I'm looking forward to this fight. I think Gunnar Nelson's going to win. Everyone keeps saying that Santiago's hard to submit. But I just fancy Nelson to get an impressive win. I think he'll get a submission. I think it'll be early in the fight. Maybe round 1 or early round 2. But I'm thinking Nelson submission. But I'm looking forward to seeing how far Nelson can go in the UFC, because he looks like a real legit prospect.
Yeah, man, I'm going to go Gunnar Nelson myself. Just simply because Jorge Santiago can't win the UFC. This kid guy is looked great. I just don't think Jorge Santiago is UFC material.
To the point and concise, we will move on to the light heavyweights. Jimmy Manuwa versus Cyril Diabate. I was actually really kind of surprised. I don't bet on the fights, but I do like to look at the lines just to see what Vegas thinks, and was surprised to see that Jimmy Manuwa is a big favorite in this fight. Manuwa, obviously the heavy-handed guy, coming off of that fight against Kyle Kingsbury where he just handed him his ass in a paper bag. Cyril Diabate, the snake, is a lot taller, has a lot more reach on him. I think the longer this fight goes, Manuwa is one of these guys who will just unload on you in the beginning of the fight, sort of like a Vitor Belfort or a Shane Corwin or one of these guys. They'll exert a lot of energy in the first round to end the fight, and that doesn't exactly favor them in the second and third rounds. Honestly, I was going to pick Diabate by a decision, but just seeing how Vegas has it, how crazy heavy they're seeing Jimmy Manuwa to win, that's almost convinced me to change my pick to a first-round Manuwa knockout. Jay?
This mute button is just not working for me. I've actually got Diabate. I haven't seen the line, so I haven't quite been swayed quite yet, but I've got Diabate to get the upset somehow. I think the reach will be a bit too much. He is incredibly tall, Diabate, and I think Manuwa hasn't really I don't know. I just don't think he would have prepared for the reach that he's got. And Diabate looks like he's started to turn into a grappler recently. I think Diabate might take him down. Manuel is going to start panicking, and he's going to be able to sink in a rear naked choke. And Chad Griggs, well, who the hell is Chad Griggs, first of all? But Cyril Diabate was able to choke someone else out, so his grappling has obviously improved from absolutely nothing. So you never know. Things can happen.
I think this fight is a lot closer than the odds have it. What has me going for Manoa is that Diabate's a lifetime kickboxer. And when you fight somebody that has such an unorthodox, raw style like Manoa, it's really difficult to adjust to the way they throw punches. He throws entirely arm punches, but he's such a beast that he will blast you off your feet with a arm punch. If you've never seen his highlight reel on YouTube, you've got to check it out, because it's almost like Mike Tyson, the way he crumples people with one shot. And, Diabate's not too quick. He's aging. His chance would be in that decision or even a great counterpunch. But I think Manoa can get in there with one shot at a weird angle and just take him right out.
I'm kind of surprised that more people aren't favouring towards Jimmy Manoa. I mean, Manoa has been a beast on the UK scene. Obviously, I know the UK scene isn't that big, but you still got to go out there and you still got to get your wins. And it's not necessarily the fact you win, it's how you win. And he's been winning impressively. He's been knocking people out. And then he comes in and he fights Carl Kingsbury. And it was very, very much one-sided. I mean, he literally annihilated him, not just for one round, it was for a couple of rounds. I mean, it wasn't like he hit him for one round and then gassed. He battered him for 2 rounds, I think it was, before the fight was finally stopped, because Kingsbury couldn't see out of his eyes because he was so beaten up. At the end of the day, Diabate in the past has shown that if he's pressured, he will crumble. And I think once Manoa gets inside with those long punches and starts throwing punches, he's going to crumple Diabate. And I don't think Diabate will make it out of the first round. I don't know how committed Diabate is to MMA as well. There's been talk about him not being, not being connected with the fight or not mentally being prepared for fights. Manoa's ready now. Manoa wants to make an impact on this division. And we spoke to Manoa, me and Jay did, before he signed with the UFC. And he said he actually turned the UFC down on numerous occasions because he wanted to make sure the time was right for him. And there's not many guys that would do that, but he was that confident in his ability that he was finally going to get there. He was happy to turn them down and then wait for the time to be right. And as it is now, the time's right for him now. So Manoa's going to blast through Diabate. This match is set up for Manoa to get a win and move up the ladder.
Yeah, going back to what Jay said, he wants to know who Chad Griggs was. That's the guy that beat Bobby in the fucking life, dude. Come on. No, but I'd definitely go with Jimmy Manoa here. He looked damn impressive in the UFC debut. Tons of power. Diabate, he's an Asian fighter. His jaw's been in question before. I was liking Chad Griggs in that fight when he fought him. I'll give Diabate credit. He did look good in that fight. But Griggs just looked horrible. So what do we really get from that? Diabate definitely had a little bit rockier UFC grid past 2 years. So yeah, I've definitely taken the young, fresh blood coming over from the UK, and I think he's definitely knocked the soul man out.
For sure, and that'll bring us to the co-main event, Cub Swanson versus Dustin Poirier. This is going to be an awesome, awesome fight. Personally, the fight I'm most excited for on the card. Vegas has it super even in this featherweight bout. You have Dustin the Diamond Poirier. After losing to Chan Sung Jung, he was on a title hunt, obviously lost to the Zombie last May, 4th round submission. Came back in December, beat Jonathan Brookins. You gotta love both of these guys, real active fighters. Both of them fought 3 times in 2012. And all 3 of those fights Cub had in 2012, he won, beating George Roop, Ross Pearson, and Charles Oliveira by KO or TKO in the first or second round. Both of them are pretty evenly matched, and I do agree with Vegas making this so even. It's almost a pick'em fight, but sort of the edge that I give at least to who I think is going to be the winner. In the last year, Cub Swanson, training over at Jackson's, has made leaps and bounds in his striking. He looks amazing. His movement, his head, his footwork and his head movement both are awesome. All of those KO victories, against Charles Oliveira, Ross Pearson, and George Roop were beautiful, and I think, the train keeps on going. Dustin Poirier is, in my opinion, a top 10 featherweight, but Swanson is a top 5 featherweight. I think really big things of Swanson, and I think there's a chance we might see him get that rematch against Aldo from what was one of the most, one of the quickest one-sided KOs in Zuffa history. I think a rematch down the road might be in the cards for a Mr. Cub Swanson, which I'm sure our buddy P Money, who wasn't able to make the show tonight, would agree with, because he shares the same hometown as Mr. Swanson, I believe, from Palm Springs. Go ahead, guys. I don't know who's next. I'm just going to say guys.
Yeah, I got it. Absolutely agree with you. Poirier, a rock-steady fighter. He is what he is, and that's a volume puncher, a gritty guy. Swanson, though, has come such a long way. I love how he uses the long-range leaping punches now. His accuracy is through the roof, and the big thing is his confidence is there. He's been a hot and cold fighter his whole career, and whatever he's tapped into is working for him. As long as he comes in with his head screwed on straight, I think he's going to light up Dustin, saying possibly a late knockout or a decision.
I'm finding this fight really hard to pick, because they're both so good at what they do, and I think Swanson has the advantage on the feet, and he's obviously got knockout power. I mean, with some of the people we've seen him knock out, obviously he looked great against Ross Pearson. Oliveira, that wasn't even a contest. Oliveira looked awful in that fight. Swanson just completely overwhelmed him. And then we've got Dustin Poirier. I feel Dustin Poirier has the advantage on the ground, but obviously Swanson's got a good takedown defence with the wrestling. So it's a really, really hard fight to pick. I'm probably going to go back and forth before I do my final picks on the MMA Playground in a couple of days. Well, it'll be tomorrow for me, because I'm going to London the day after. But at the minute, I'm siding towards Dustin Poirier to get Swanson down and get a submission. But it is going to be a fantastic fight.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree to this. It's an extremely hard fight to pick. But myself, I think I'm going to side with Coach Swanson for the time being. Unless if, when I'm making my picks on the playground, I see it came favorite Poirier, and there's some good, legit comments to make this swing. But I just think I'm really going to side with Coach just for his current momentum swing that this guy's riding right now. He's looking like, champion in his last couple fights. He's not fighting, like top 5 guys, but still, this guy just coming out great. He's always been a decent fighter, but recently, this guy's just been on fire, throwing those around, knocking mofos out like it's nothing.
Powerful.
This is, for me, one of the hardest fights in the card to pick. I really haven't made a decision, but using all your guys is trying to get some feedback. It feels like it might be a striker versus a grappler matchup. You guys have spoken about the Korean zombie fight, and for that reason, I think I'm going to have to side with Cub Swanson. I think Poirier might stand a little too long. If he turns it into strictly a grappling match, he'll take this all day. But it is hard to take people down in, especially the lighter weight classes, as guys are very quick. In 15 minutes, you don't want to get taken down, so they work a lot on getting back up and using their speed. So for that reason, I'm going to pick Cub Swanson to be able to get the finish in this one.
For sure, and and I guess that brings us to the main event, which we've been mentioning the odds for all these. The odds are not in Mr. Michael McDonald's favor for this one, even though he is on an 8-fight win streak. 5 of those being in Zuffa, 1 WEC fight, and then his 4 UFC fights against Figueroa, Carriazo, Soto, and Miguel Torres, which have brought him to this point in his last 2 victories, first-round knockouts. He has a stinging right hand that really can stop anybody. Barao, he's a favorite, a heavy favorite in this fight for a reason. That 29-fight win streak is something of MMA lore. And Michael McDonald does have a puncher's chance, but he's really going to need to script the fight of his career. He's gonna need to do it early. I think Barao, like his, I believe Barao trains at Nova União. Yeah. with his teammate Jose Aldo. He is going to look to stun McDonald with those leg kicks early to make it tough for McDonald to leap in with that right hand and stop it early. And obviously you do get a lot of leverage out of those legs as well. If Michael McDonald is able to weather the early Barao barrage and sneak in one of those stinging rights, he will win the fight, but I don't really see that happening. I see Barao defending the interim championship. He has looked brilliant, and I cannot wait to see Renan Barao versus Dominic Cruz once Cruz gets back from his second ACL surgery.
This fight is just amazing. I mean, when this fight was announced it was going to be the UK, I was absolutely over the moon. It's been a while since we've had a title fight, and to get these two guys, they're two of the most explosive athletes, not just in this division, but across the whole of the UFC. I mean, we've seen what Renan Barao did to Brad Pickett. We've seen what Michael McDonald did to Miguel Torres. I mean, both these guys are finishers. It's just going to be such a great fight. Who's to pick? Again, it's one of those fights where it's very hard to go against the champion. I think Renan Barao's going to win. I don't think it's going to go 5 rounds because they are both finishers. I liken this fight to the Brad Pickett fight. I think it might go a little bit longer than the Brad Pickett fight, maybe make it into the second round. But I think Renan Barao will catch McDonald with something, will drop him, will jump on him, take his back and sink in a submission. So I'd be going for Renan Barao probably round 2 submission, I think. But for as long as this fight goes on, it's going to be a very, very good fight.
Oh, man, I always wanted Michael McDonald to do the UFC ever since I saw his first UFC fight. I guess I didn't fit the role. That fight was just awesome. I became an instant fan of both guys, but even more Michael McDonald. Now he's fighting for the belt, but I just really don't like his chances against who he's fighting against. Renan Barao, what could you say about the guy? But the guy is just amazing at what he does. Like Jake mentioned, we really want to see the Renan Barao versus Cruz fight, but Cruz is still nursing his bum knee. McDonald, the only way he really has a chance is knocking him out, and I really don't see it. I definitely don't think he could submit Renan Barao at all. The only way he's going to be able to really win is if he just lands some great combos and can put this guy out, and I really don't see that. As for the way he's going to be finished, I definitely think Barao could finish him. I don't know if he will. We'll see. If he does get to finish, it'll probably be more, in my opinion, probably more like the 3rd or 4th round. I think, McDonald has enough to, last a little bit with him, but this fight is definitely in Barao's favor, and he's still going to retain his interim belt this weekend. Jay?
Jay?
Yeah, I'm still trying to think. I think I have got Barao by decision, but you guys are starting to kind of lean me away from the decision and start maybe thinking about the submission. I agree with a lot of raise points. I don't think I'm actually as excited as I should be. There's just something about this fight that, I don't know, just something about this fight that I'm not too excited about. I think Barao in his fights over Scott Jorgensen, when I want to see these guys, I want to see these guys throw leg kicks, and especially when they do that much damage. And I think Michael McDonald's going to go in there and try and land these uppercuts and trying to punch him in his face. But I think Barao is going to ease off and back off and kind of wait a little bit, be more patient. And I don't think it's going to be the fireworks I want to see and the fans will want to see. I really hope it's exciting. I hope, like Ray said, I'd love to see a reenactment of Barao versus Pickett. But I think Barao's past that stage where he has to be exciting. I think Barao does go on to beat Cruz as well by using the same style he beat Fable with. But yeah, I'm going with Barao, and I might not be the most excited man in the world for the fight, but it should be a good fight, and it should be very competitive.
Well, I have to run my mouth here a bit, because I'm the only guy taking McDonald. A few things about McDonald that I really like is he's an absolute natural fighter. Everything comes easy to him, counters, his mat work, even though he's really not trained in the mat, he's phenomenal, especially off his back. Just the timing, the way he moves, everything flows for that guy. Barao's fast, and he hits hard, but he's a very simple fighter. He throws a leg kick, he throws a 1-2. He can zap you with him, but somebody that can see punches coming like McDonald, If this goes past a round, I think he's going to start getting the better of that stand-up. Also for Barao, he's fought a line of boxer wrestlers. He's never really fought a kickboxer of this caliber. And a fight with Uriah Faber, a fight with Brad Pickett doesn't really prepare you for somebody that's used to countering a leg kick, who has a really good bottom game like this. I think Barao might try to fight him the same way he fought Cole Escudero. Similarly built fighter, and work those takedowns, because he does have really solid takedowns, especially for a Brazilian non-wrestler. And I think that's where McDonald might get him. I'm saying McDonald submits him off his back, probably mid-second round or third round.
For sure, yeah, definitely the black sheep Bacon McDonald there, but I agree with you that he has more of a chance than a lot of people are giving him in this fight. And definitely tune into UFC on Fuel, wherever you are in the world, tune into that. It's going to be a dope fight. And I guess that closes out the show. Sorry, I had to clear my throat there. Thanks a bunch to the listeners. Like I said at the top of the show, you guys keep it going. The MMA Roundtable is on Ustream live every Thursday, 7 to 9 Eastern, 4 to 6 Pacific, midnight to 2 a.m. in the UK. Ray, you want to plug MMA Mental one more time?
Yeah, absolutely. Check some of our interviews out. Last week we spoke with Bruce Buffer, Big John McCarthy. Matt Riddle came on as well and talked about his fight with Che Mills. This week already I spoke with Phil Harris. I've got an interview booked tomorrow with Jimmy Rivera, Johnny Hendricks. As Jake said, I'm in talks with Kat Zingano. I'm trying to get her on tomorrow, if not next week. I continue to work with XFC, setting up the event for XFC 22. So yes, check us out. We've got we're pretty much interviewing people on a daily basis at the moment, so just keep checking it out to see who we've got on next. And we will be live at UFC on Fuel TV 7 Cageside with our first press pass.
Hell yeah! Follow them on Twitter at MMA Mental. Mike, any shout outs again for MMA Valor or anything?
Yep. Come over to MMAValor.com. You can check out my take on all the fights we talked about, a little more in depth. And follow me on Twitter at Mike Hammersmith. And follow MMA Valor on Twitter as well.
For sure. Because Rams isn't here, I'll shout out for him anyway. He has a Tuesday podcast after the Tough Show every week. You can follow him on Twitter. His Twitter is The Ant Jimmy Show. TheAntJimmyShow. Jay, plug the MMA Playground for us a little bit.
You bitches better be getting your picks and bets in on the playground. I know all you four will, but yeah, make sure you do that if you're listening. And yeah, just try and beat us, guys. You're never going to beat us.
Yeah, the MMA Playground, hands down the best MMA forum on the internet. Really fun pick game as well. The best forum and the best MMA fantasy site on the nets. It's a lot of fun. You got to check that out at themMAPlayground.com. Follow Jay on Twitter, J_Jeans. Dave is Buffalo Dave 10. And even though Patrick, Chris, and Ramses aren't with us, I already gave you Ramses. Patrick is Sweet Pappy Jones. Chris is C_Lowenstein. Thank you again for tuning in. And have a great, great Valentine's Day. We love the shit out of you bad motherfuckers. Until next week's roundtable. Oh yeah, our show. We do our show tomorrow every Friday, 9 to 11 Eastern, 6 to 8 Pacific. We got Crookshank on tomorrow. That's going to be a lot of fun. So myself and for all the other roundtables, happy Valentine's Day. We hope you have a good one. We love the shit out of you crazy motherfuckers. Till next week, we got.
But I'm abstract and stay true to the craft. Spark trees to relax. Old school lyrical listen the track. And I'm working the angles on me sharp and precise, man. Back in the day when I was learning to rock in this mic, paying homage to the classic shit. Dilated, undisputed heavyweights repping Los Angeles. And yeah, I do this for the 213. The storm can flip down, you know I'm with that G. So fire in the hole, slick with the flow. High caliber rappers is here to shatter the fuck.